Okay. The board was in. Good evening and welcome to the December 4th meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Sewer Commissioners. The board actually opened this session at 6:05, and because we had an executive meeting prior to this, so the board has already opened the meeting and been called, so we'll move right into announcements.
Mr. Chair, I do not have any announcements this evening. Not that I'm aware of.
It's December. We must have a slew of them. You didn't, Mrs. Begley?
I'll look for them.
Go ahead, Rob.
Just a reminder that the Wareham Village Association's parade will be Saturday, and I believe it starts at 3 p.m. Am I correct? And we did have a few of them from last week, but I will look for the folder.
You have one? No, come on up. Go ahead. Yeah, it's fine. The water's fine. Nobody will bite.
No.
While you're at it, Mrs. Begley's looking for hers. You might as well give us yours.
Okay.
You're not going to have to go look for it, are you?
Nope.
Okay.
December 17th, all the
I don't know. Yeah. Go ahead.
December 17th, all the dump stickers, beach stickers, shellfish permits for 2013 will be going on sale at our office. Same price as last year.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
I have a quick.
Bob?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
No.
I'll make a little more detail. The Xmas Parade is December 8th, Wareham Village Association. The Village Association will be serving hot chocolate at the Wareham Historical Society's Methodist Meeting Hall, which is at the corner of Elm Street and 495 Main Street. The Wareham Historical Society will also have a bake sale. The proceeds of the bake sale will go to the Hurricane Sandy Relief Fund. Time frame is 3 to 5. I would ask Mrs. Slavin if the Historical Society, any decision on that event? 17th?
I've not heard on the 17th.
Okay, that's all I have then. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Begley, back to you. Mrs. Winslow, back to you.
The folder's not in the box.
And I do want to remind everybody that the Activities Committee does have the New Year's Eve party for the first time in many years here in Wareham. I forget the name of the band, but there's supposed to be a wonderful enjoyment for dancing due to the fact that my current dance partner is not able to walk. I'll certainly be looking for a dance partner. Derek, are you available? You're a little shorter than me. I think that'll work out okay. Tickets are $50 per person. There will be food, dancing, entertainment, and of course a great time at midnight. It's the first time in many years, again, that we're having something in Wareham. So if you're interested, you can contact Claire Smith, Rudy, or just call the office, and we'll direct you on how to get tickets. Anything else? Okay, moving right along. Anybody have anything they'd like to speak about in citizens' participation? Oh, my God. Hey, Tommy. Jim? Did you have something?
Yeah, I have something.
You need some help there? Hang on. Derek's going to help you get the mic. Yeah, but you need to get it into the mic, so he'll help you. I thought you said you had something.
Thank you. What I have to say, I just want to thank everybody that helped out for the Veterans Day Parade. I thought it was a big success this year. It's one of the biggest ones we've had so far. And I've got some good news for myself, basically. Mr. White and Mr. Sharon Boy are going to run it for the next 2 years, too.
Outstanding. Very nice. I saw him here. Oh, he's working on the T. Oh, there he is, right over
He's
there.
in back over here.
He's over there. It's good.
And I don't know if Chris knows it yet, but I've already ordered getting a couple of CDs from the parade that they did, WCTV did on the parade, and I'm going to pass them out to the nursing home over there where I was stuck in for about 6 months.
It was very nice to have people from the nursing home come to the event. That was very nice, too.
I understand that they got quite a few veterans over there, so let's get something over there for them.
Very good.
And the residents said that they can't get out. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
And I wish you all a happy holiday.
Happy holiday to you, too. Mr. Robinson?
Thank you very much, Ron Robinson from Oakdale. I originally came this evening because I had some questions regarding the betterment, but as it was pointed out to me that the betterment is on the agenda for this evening. So I guess what I'm saying is that if I'm correct in reading number 7, item C, the setting of the betterment interest rate, I take this to mean that the betterment will actually be set this evening in addition to being discussed by the board. Is that correct?
The title says setting of betterment, so I would say yes.
Thank you very much, and I'd just like to say that there are...
I wasn't here last week, so I see it on there, so I'm assuming that's what...
Right, I just want to make sure, because there are a lot of people out there who are going to be very appreciative of that fact. Thank you very much.
Well, we've been trying to push. Mrs. Begley has been a champion of that, pushing Mr. Campina and others to get this finally set so that people can make plans in their life to deal with it. Anybody else? Okay. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we have no bills to sign. We do have the minutes from the November 6th, the regular meeting. I move to approve the meeting minutes of November 6th, 2012 as written.
Second.
Motion made in second. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0.
Under licenses and permits, we have the change of corporate name for McDonald's and common vic license.
Someone here from McDonald's?
Anybody here from McDonald's? I think this is a procedural.
Yeah.
So I move. Well, does anybody have the folder that came in the box?
The big folder's not here?
No. And I don't have the paper.
Is that why you couldn't find the other?
Yeah.
You have the documents that I have, I think.
Oh, okay. I move to approve the corporate name change for McDonald's Corporation as per their license.
Folder that didn't come in the box?
Oh, where was it?
It was in the box.
No, we just looked in the box.
Well, I'm not a magician. That was pretty good, though. I think I could do that at a Christmas party for kids or something. Yeah.
Okay, let me start over. I move to change the corporate name for McDonald's on the common vic license to CJJ Inc., doing business as McDonald's, 3022 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass.
I have a motion made. Second by Mr. Slavin. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 5-0-0.
Now we're up to the SOAR business. We have the special legislation for SOAR commissioners. We had, this is something that I requested be put on the agenda. We had asked at town meeting to be given time to look at the proposed legislation and resubmit at Springtown meeting because there were questions and concerns about the bill that was written. My specific questions were why the number of changes were made and why we were taking the town administrator who governs all employees of the town with the exception of the school and with the exception of the CETA director who falls under us out of the equation. That was my first question. I'm not sure if anybody can... Are we going to discuss this tonight? And
It's your agenda item.
I'm not sure if anybody can answer that question for me, but...
Well, I guess the point was, I think the question I had was, you put this on here at town meeting, it was voted, I think, further study, and I asked who was going to further study it, and everybody laughed. So I assume that you volunteered by putting this on every week, that we were going to be the people to further study.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I mean, I'm hoping that we can figure out why there was such a dramatic change in the proposed article from when it was first approved in 2010, I believe, to the one that was presented this past fall.
And so I understand that question, and so my follow-up question is pretty simple. If that's the case, I need to know how to drive this. I mean, I can put it on every week, but it's not going to get me anywhere. I need to know how to drive this. Is the point to be the further study group, and you want me to drive this to a new article for April? Is that what you want me to? Is that why this is here, or you just have that one question?
No, I think that we should discuss the article and whether or not we should be putting forth a new article, and if so, what components of that article should be present.
Okay. So discussion of the article, right?
Yes.
Create new article, right? And then
Yes.
submit for April. That's
my goal.
Does everybody agree on that? That's the goal. Get this back in April. Because I'll just start timelining it on this agenda and deal with it. Get the information in the packets over the next couple of weeks. We can discuss the article, go through it, make the changes that the board so chooses, and then submit it back in April. I mean, that's pretty easy. But just leaving it like this isn't going to get us anywhere. So.
Well, we skipped over it last week because I felt all 5 of us should be present to determine what our course of action was going to be. I didn't think it was fair to leave you out.
Does that sound like a course of action to take? Does everybody agree with that? Okay. So next week, I'll embellish this a little bit and add to it underneath there. I'll get the article pulled up. We'll put aside some time on the agenda to discuss it, and then figure out how to break it down and go forward and get it redone.
And can we
Is that okay?
Yep. Can the board be given copies of the previous article?
Yeah, I'll have all that
Okay.
grabbed together and put in the packet.
That would be great.
Okay.
Okay, the next agenda item is the funding source for contract 2. We are going to approve, I hope we're going to approve the betterment tonight because we do need to do this before the end of the year for it to go on the 2014 tax bills. So, but while I realize that there is a rationale that really we don't have to worry about paying the deficit between the betterment and the contract amount for many years, I do think that it's incumbent upon this board to have a plan in place that's going to cover the deficiency and Mr. Sullivan was going to get us some information from Attorney Bowen advised that the Attorney General wouldn't comment on this article. Mr. Sullivan was going to talk to Jerry Perry at the DOR and let us know what the DOR's opinion was in terms of how we handle this deficit. But I do think that we need to, the total deficit for the overall contract was $915,000, I believe. So that creates a substantial dollar amount due every year of the 20 years that we pay this. So Mr. Sullivan, maybe you can enlighten us as to...
After I spoke to our local rep, Jared Curtis, on there, he consulted with his supervisors, and what they've asked, and what I've done is submit to them all the information to which the DOR's legal counsel is going to handle. Our local reps and the director are not going to be the ones giving us any information. It's going to actually go through their legal, which I would not say I wouldn't hold up anything until we get responses from legal. No offense to attorneys here.
So we don't have any information that we can really deal with tonight, but it will be forthcoming.
I would expect they're going to give us information on there, one way or the other.
Because as we get into the budget season, I think we're going to need to provide some guidance in terms of, and I know Mr. Slavin had his hand up, Mr. Chair, so he may have a thought on this, but we'll probably need to address this in the upcoming budget, would we not?
If it's described that if it's a lump sum payment, or if we can spread it out over 20 years, we should and shall address it on there and try and figure out how it's going to be handled.
Okay.
So.
There's a couple things here. The DOR might just make a decision on their own of where it comes from. It might come from the retained earnings of the water pollution control facility. There's a couple different ways it can be handled. Also, on the bond issue, we have an issue. We have an $18,000 cap that's passed by town meeting. We're asking the bond, when it goes out to bond through Mr. Foster, whoever does the bond, to basically finance $3,000 plus of nothing. There's no asset against it. So the question is whether or not that gets financed as well. That's going to make the decision more than anything else. What happens? Are we allowed to go ahead and bond 18 or go ahead and bond the 21.3 in the total going through? So there's more than just a couple questions we're waiting on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, with the bond issue, if it's financed by whom? Is my question. So, would this be something that would be paid for by all the taxpayers in town? And if it came out of retained earnings for the sewer enterprise fund, is that ultimately being financed by current sewer users? Those are my two questions.
The bond is the bond from the water pollution control facility to pay all the betterments. So that's
Right.
what the betterments are paying back, is that
I
bond
understand.
that we're taking out. As to the retained earnings are what's been paid into the water pollution control facility account, and at the end of the year, what's left over. So it would have been prior funding on there.
So either way, it would be would be paid by the current sewer users.
That's from the sewer users, the bond, whatever's being paid out of there, or from retained earnings.
So, Mr. Chair, I would respectfully ask that we keep this on the agenda until the matter is resolved.
It is, that's on there, just as you requested.
Thank you very much.
And again, if from week to week, rather than just have that lane there, if there's something I can embellish to try to, information needs to be gathered or anything that needs to be stuck in there, like a 1, 2, 3, to keep that moving specifically, just let me know.
Well,
Yeah, just like I just did with A, just leaving this on here, to me, it doesn't move the football. I like that. Okay, what's the next step on this for next week's meeting?
well, I think that the first question, the first question is how the DOR wishes us to handle the situation, and Mr. Sullivan reached out to them and wasn't able to get a clear answer as of yet. The second question, which I hadn't even thought of as of yet, but Mr. Slavin makes a good point, and that is we're going to set the betterment rate. The town needs to go out and bond that money. Are we going to be able to bond the entire project when we know there's a $915,000 deficiency? And depending upon the answer to that question would depend upon our next course of action. Because if
Okay.
the answer is yes, then we're basically spreading that deficiency over 20 years. If the answer is no, then we have to come up with $915,000 in the budget.
Just briefly, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this notion of a bond and how the bond is secured. We're talking here essentially about a municipal project that's buried underground, really, and is the responsibility of the people assessed a betterment to pay, and then of course the leftover is for us. I don't see that this kind of a bond issue really relies upon collateral in the sense of, for example, an equipment purchase or something like that. So I don't know that it really hinges upon 18,000 versus 21,000. I think it really hinges on what we can borrow and what our bond rating is and what our credit worthiness is. So I think that might be maybe the direction we need to think about. But those are questions I think for Mr. Sullivan, possibly to talk about with Mr. Foster and get some clarity for us.
Well, and that's, Mr. Chairman, through you, that's exactly my point. I mean, we as the SOAR commissioners, need to address these issues up front and make sure that we know how they're going to be handled, as opposed to waiting until they must be handled or reacting to a situation. So we get the answers to our questions and we can make an educated and informed decision going forward.
Because this is a 20-year issue.
Yep.
And, there's been discussion of other methods to dedicate to this, so I think we... Okay. And I'll try to get those answers and keep pushing the folks on those answers so that we'll have something documented next week, and then we can keep batting at it every week. We'll get it done.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the setting of the betterment and the interest rate. I know last time we did this, Mr. Foster came before us and explained the interest rate. He's not here tonight to explain that to us, but we do need to set this betterment.
I don't think he was. I didn't ask him.
No, that's okay. I don't have an issue doing it without him. I clearly remember how he explained it to us. This is an SRFA loan. So basically, town meeting capped the betterment at $18,000. We know that the project came in at a little over $21,000 per home, but we can't set that betterment any higher than $18,000. So I move to set the betterment for contract 2 at $18,000 per bettered property.
Second.
We're taking 2 votes,
Yes, I believe we
Okay.
have to do it separate.
so it was 18,000.
18.
Motion made by Mrs. Winslow, seconded by Mr. Titlebaum. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 410.
Mr. Slavin, can you vote on that?
Yes, because town meeting capped it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not making any decision. I'm just voting on what town meeting says. It has
Okay.
no effect on me at this point.
Well, the next piece is going to affect you, so
I will be abstaining on the next piece.
thank you. The interest rate on these SRFA loans, I may have the initials wrong. What? It's
What?
it's 2%. In the prior contract, we were advised that because people pay the betterments early and for various other reasons, we were advised to set the interest rate at 4%. That was what Mr. Foster, our treasurer, felt was financially feasible in the best interest of the town. So contract 1 was set at 4%. Correct, Derek?
2.5.
2.5? I thought it was 2.5 above. What's the interest rate on contract 1? 2.5 total, not add-on. Okay, then I misspoke. So we added 0.5% to contract 1 to cover the administrative costs. I wasn't happy about that then, and I'm not going to be happy about that now, but I certainly understand better now, a couple years later, the reasons for that. So I move to set the interest rate on contract 2, the same as contract 1 at 2.5%.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
3, 1, 1.
Next up, we have any other SOAR business. I do not see Mr. Campina in the audience.
Oh, he's here.
He is? Where? Oh, he's hiding. Anything else?
Okay.
No?
Thanks, Guy, for coming in. I appreciate it. Unless you got something. Ah. You were going to stay home tonight, watch TV, and now you want to speak. I don't know if I should allow that.
I'm not sure if you should. I'll do it real quick. One thing I want to add is the signing of the betterment documents, so I can get them back to Mr. Deshay, so he can record them and I can get them back to
Are they in
Sessions.
the envelope?
I believe
They're actually on my desk
signs, and that's all I want to add to that.
in my office.
Okay.
Well, if you need to, you can put them in the mailroom.
So we'll sign those as
Thank
soon
you.
as possible.
And
Miss-
if those, and I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
Guy, those need to be notarized, those
Yes.
documents?
They need to be notarized. There's a regular and then there's also registered land. That both documents have to be notarized as
Has to go
to
through the clerk.
your signature.
Clerk, and we also have Shirley in the office as a notary as well.
Huh?
Shirley in the office
Oh,
is a
okay.
notary
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Whatever works best, we'll get them done for you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Hope you feel better.
Mr. Sullivan, before we wrap up the SOAR piece of the contract, can you just explain when the betterment bills will first come out on the tax bills, how that works for the public?
For that section on there, my understanding was we had to get it done by the end of this month so that they can go out there. And then these are basically bi-yearly, so once every 6 months on the bills on there. So they're not a quarterly bill going out there.
Right, but the first bill isn't issued until,
I think we're off schedule this year. Usually it would be August and February, I believe, is when it normally is. I don't know when this first one's going to go out for there.
if memory serves me correct, it doesn't go out until 2014, January of 2014. It goes out a year after. I might be wrong. We might want to, Mr. Campina, is it January of 2014? Yes.
Thanks, Guy.
Okay. If we didn't set it by the end of this month, then we would have pushed it into
2015.
2015. That's why we had to get it done. Okay. So January of 2014. Okay. Under
Right, now, next up, let Mr. Sullivan deal with his report, please. He has someone here from out of town that needs to address the board.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'd ask that Ginger, if you don't mind coming up there. This is just Ginger Hastings from GBS Group Benefit Strategies. And tonight what I'm asking the Board of Selectmen is to acceptance of Chapter 32B, Sections 21 to 23, which deal with the Group Insurance Commission on there, and which will allow us to work with the unions on changing some of the aspects of our insurance. Ms. Hastings is here tonight for any questions that you may have. We did send out a folder with some information before earlier last week, so I'm hoping you're well versed in it.
Okay. Good evening and welcome. Thank you.
Good
You need
evening.
to speak real close to that sponge.
Okay,
And if you'd introduce yourself for the record. And
sure.
Tell us who
I'm
you are.
Ginger Hastings, and I'm with Group Benefit Strategies, and we do the consulting for the town of Wareham's benefits, healthcare benefits.
Okay. And if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief overview as to what the chapters and sections,
Sure.
the benefit to the town by accepting these so that everyone's aware.
All right. In July of 2011, the governor signed the Massachusetts Municipal Healthcare Reform Act, which is actually giving cities, towns, regional school districts leverage and allowing them to make plan design changes or transfer to the Group Insurance Commission with an expedited bargaining period. Typically, something like this can take up to a year or two by the time you get all the unions to agree to any type of plan design change. This actually does it in a fell swoop. You could probably get through it in about 4 months. Again, what you have is either the option to make plan design changes up to a benchmark plan, which is the Group Insurance Commission's Tufts Navigator, or Unicare for the senior plan, or if the savings are achieved to be at least 5% more than if you were to make plan design changes on your own, you could then actually transfer into the Group Insurance Commission. The Group Insurance Commission transfer is really not going to be an option for you, and this time you would have already had to have tell the GIC on December 1st. The next opportunity to go into the GIC for you folks would be January of next year. But that is not necessarily what the focus is. I believe the focus is really looking at plan design and trying to get, different plan designs in place.
And my understanding is that the first step for the town to do anything at all is to accept these.
Exactly.
Accept this chapter and section.
It is a local option, and in order to move forward, the selectmen do have to vote, and the unions were all notified, is my understanding, that this vote would take place.
Right.
Correct.
Any questions, Mr. Titlebaum?
To be sure, this is the beginning of a different negotiating process. I guess my questions would be possibly directed more towards Mr. Sullivan, but what are the savings that are anticipated from this, and from whence do they spring?
The savings come from changes in the co-payments, so there'll be savings on the town side and to the employees as well. By changing those co-payments, our monthly costs are going to go down on there and our premiums. As to the anticipated, we have a rough idea on there now. I think we were looking at approximately $600,000, maybe a little over, but we'll be conservative on the 600. The first year that split is between the town and the employees, 75% to the town, 25% to the employees.
And in addition, the town must mitigate at least up to 25% of the total savings back to the employees through health reimbursement accounts, holidays, such as whatever they decide they want to go with.
Mr. Slade, any questions?
No, that 25%, of course, is everybody understands that's for the first year only. After that,
Correct.
it disappears there. This is something which I think the state has been pushing for several years now. They've been requiring people to go and look at this, and if they don't adopt the state plan, they have to adopt a similar plan. It's something that it's hard to say it's a good thing to do, but we have really what I feel is no choice in the matter. We have to find some savings somewhere, and I'd rather save some money here than have to lay people off. Thank you.
Mr. Begley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question is this. The town side would realize the $600,000 savings. This doesn't include the school employees?
No, that's with the school as well on this.
So does the school committee have to vote on this
No.
to accept this, or just the Board of Selectmen, and it would also impact the school employees?
Correct. It would just be the selectmen have to vote on this, and actually it becomes the appropriate public authority that would then negotiate with the unions, and you would have to appoint that person. Most likely it would be the town administrator.
Because this is for the town of Wareham.
It's for all town and school employees.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that, since so many decisions that we make do not impact the school department.
This absolutely does.
Okay. And my other question is this. I looked at Section C of Section 23, and I just want to be sure, because we were given a 5-year projection for the budget, and we'd have to fund the Healthcare Trust Fund an additional $1.5 million for FY14. So I just want to be sure that the Healthcare Trust Fund remains is it in the black currently? Just,
If you're asking from the audited statements, we haven't
Yes.
gotten them back.
okay. To the best of your knowledge, it's in the black?
If you're asking for an educated guess, yes.
Okay, that's all I'm asking for. I just wanted to be sure, because that kind of caught my eye. I did read all the sections that we're asked to approve. Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are obviously difficult undertakings for the community. They often, as an HR professional, I deal with this all the time, and I know that they often invoke a great deal of fear in the employees, but I think at the end of the day, it will save both the town and the employees money, especially when we're able to incorporate some of those things like HRAs and FSAs into the plans. And hopefully this will keep everybody working as opposed to the alternative.
Okay, can we have a motion to accept?
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board accept the provisions of Chapter 32B, Sections 21 to 23.
I have a motion made. I have a second. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 4, 0, 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking me earlier. I appreciate
for
it.
your time. Well, drive safely.
Mr. Chairman, before she goes, do we have to make that appointment of Mr. Sullivan this evening?
I believe it would be him anyways, unless there's one of the selectmen plans on sitting in on all of the negotiation sessions. So it's generally.
So
gonna
it would
be-
just default, we don't have to address that?
I do not
Okay,
believe so. No.
great.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Next up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Does that conclude the town administrator's report for the evening?
The two other items that I have is tonight I'm going to just ask, you voted on the growth, was it the adoptive factor for the residential value, not to split it. Tonight I just have the LA5, which is the physical document on there. That's going to require physical signature from the board, so I'm just going to ask that we get this signed. The Board of Department of Revenue has approved the growth and the LA4. We've submitted information into the recap for the taxes, and I believe that our free cash certification, it hasn't come through, but those documents are going to be through. The accounting is promising me tomorrow on there, so we're well on moving forward with it. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Oh, excuse me. Then there was one last thing. In town meeting in the fall, the town voted for some items which were for a wind generating for net metering credits and solar as well. What I'm asking this board to do is to vote in a representative or appoint a representative to start working with the two options on there, so we can go forward and make sure that some of that is, if it's something that we want to do, is able to happen from the Board of Selectmen.
To work with you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that.
I don't, yeah. Do we have to do that tonight?
If you don't mind, I think.
Yeah, they're really hammering us because there are some time frames on certain projects that we have an opportunity to get in on. The second issue is there are some federal changes that unless the government acts, if we're going to participate in particular programs and we don't act before those tax credits or federal credits expire, then obviously there's no dice rolling. So there's a lot of pieces, and we have the opportunity, I believe, on the solar side, to actually start reaping benefits from that project in first part of the year. Wind is more towards October-ish.
Well, it's
So we have
certainly
an
something.
opportunity to get moving on this now.
I'm a big supporter of alternative energy, so I certainly wouldn't mind being the one to work on this. It's long been a passion of mine to utilize sources that don't damage our environment, but if somebody else has a real interest, then yeah, I can make the time.
I move that Selectman Winslow is the representative for the discussions regarding the solar and wind approved at town meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 500.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Sullivan, you can just send me an email. Let me know when a good time for you is.
Okay.
I'm generally off on Thursdays and Fridays, so.
I think we figured out the time frame
Well, we need to get that first meeting scheduled
with Rich
the
there.
last, yes,
Yeah.
immediately, because if we lose out on that, that would be a shame.
Yeah.
I'm going to notify right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Okay, now moving back
You're
up.
gonna pass that document around for us to sign? Okay.
Moving back up to town minutes, we have town minutes. We have a town business. We have a discussion with Roy Edwards from Namasket Kayak.
Good evening. I know that we've missed each other, and I just want to say that the reason, because I'm trying to understand what this is all about,
Okay.
and the reason you're here, and I won't allow anything outside of this, the reason you're here is to tell the board about your business,
Right.
and what your idea is.
Exactly.
This board can take no action
Exactly.
on your, just so that we're clear. That's why I tried to, I think
Absolutely.
I sent you a message from the road, and it might have came across screwy, but we can't do any other, no action here.
Well, I understand
It's just
that.
to tell us who you are and what you'd like to do in town.
Exactly.
And I always try to give businesses an opportunity to do that,
Okay.
and that's why we're here.
Well,
Okay?
primarily, I just wanted to let you know that I'm around and, like you say, let you know what I do, a
Right.
bit of my history and what my proposal is.
Great.
Okay. Could I pass? I have two more articles that I'd like to.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Here's the phone.
My name is Roy Edwards, and I am the president of the Nemasket Kayak Center, which we are home based in Raynham, Massachusetts. And what I would like to propose is the availability to establish a new business for short-term rental kayaks, canoes, if there's a call for it, and the new wave that's coming this way, stand-up paddle boards. The kids call them SUPs. I must be one of the kids because I call them SUPs too.
A stand-up what?
Stand-up paddle boards. Have you ever?
Ah,
are you
I
familiar?
haven't seen. I don't think I've seen one.
Could I show you a picture?
That sounds
of one?
dangerous
Would
to
you like
me.
to see a picture? It's not actually. It's they're much more stable than they look like a surfboard. They're much more stable than a surfboard, and you can paddle them either laying down, kneeling, or standing up. You can get right in the surf with them. There's more stability with that paddle, so it helps to keep you upright. You do fall off. They're easy to climb back on. And I do have a picture I can show you. It's not a photograph. I tried to
This goes back to Derek.
photographs, so you can keep that and just kind of hand it around. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen them.
I was thinking like a paddle boat.
No.
Where you have to.
No, this is really I think started in Hawaii. It's real big in Hawaii, California, Florida, and it's coming this way. Pardon the pun, like a wave. So, I would I've been doing it for myself for a year. My instructors, my guides, they all stand up paddleboard, and like the kayak sport that we love. We're getting to love this pretty much too. So. Along with that, we also offer safety training and individualized quick start training, which is designed for both tourists visiting Wareham, being the proposal, and onset as well as for families and children. And we work with people of all ages. I know in my shop back in Raynham, I mean, I've had kids bringing their children as young as 3 and 4 years old, and the oldest person I had was 90. For her 90th birthday, she wanted to paddle down the Taunton River. So that's just some of the things that we try to make available to people. The Nemasket kayak itself is a 27-mile river. It's a wild and scenic river. It's one of 12 only in the United States. And I am home based in Raynham, and the river is right out back. We do shuttling upriver, pick the people up at the end of the trip. We try to make everything that we do enjoyable for the customer. They can park at our parking lot. So, and they kind of like that idea. It's not a difficult thing. We provide everything from safety, instruction, whatever they need.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Onset Beach is concerned, I've been coming to Onset Beach myself since I was a kid. I won't tell you how old I am, but when I got married and I had children, I brought them here too. So, and I've been around the water all my life. I grew up in New Bedford. We used to, as a kid, we used to go out exploring every inch of the Acushnet River. I guess today the kids that go out there are probably more like James Bond. Myself, I was probably more like Davy Crockett. I don't know. So,
Were you from the North End?
I'm sorry?
Were you from the North End?
South End.
South
Yeah,
End.
yeah, right near Roosevelt Junior High in that
Mhm.
area. Yeah, I grew up on Frederick Street. Yeah. As far as beyond that type of paddling, I eventually got into. I was in the Navy for 4 years, so again I was on the water. So, and when I got out of the Navy, we ended up in Brockton. But that still didn't take away my love for wanting to be near the water. I ended up buying ski boats and canoes and kayaks, and I'm still doing it today. And now I'm
Sure.
trying to offer it to the general public. It's a sport that I love, and like I said, we try to teach safety, the love of the sport, and we just try to spread it around to as many people as we can. The important thing that we stand for, and I'm sure you've heard of some of the the things that can happen out there, in water sports. All my guides and instructors are all ACA, American Canoe Association certified. And they're all about safety as well as instruction.
Well, a couple things.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned onset, and I don't know how familiar you are with a lot of discussion that takes place here in town, but there's been a tremendous amount of discussion about, and Mr. Slavin will probably talk to this in a minute, about up in the Narrows area where we're actually looking to develop a kayak launch and things like that. So I'm not sure if you're aware of any of that,
I wasn't, but something like that would
some
be
of the
great.
key people in this room they're actually sitting here. That gentleman right there behind you is Mr. Pina, who's our seated director.
How are you?
And if you haven't talked to him yet, you need to do that.
Okay, I certainly will.
And the gentleman over there on your your right, my left, is Mr. Buckminster. I think you've
I
spoken
have
with
spoken
Gary.
to him
You've
a
met
couple of
Gary,
times,
right?
yeah. Shook hands today.
Mr. Sullivan. You're going to be my dance partner, but I can't remember your name. That brings back memories.
You ought to try dancing on a stand-up paddleboard.
I don't know if you met Mr. Sullivan. Have you met Mr.
I have
Sullivan?
not. No, sir, I have not.
Okay, you're going to need to sit and chat with him as well.
Okay.
And surprisingly,
Mr.
even I can
Teitelbaum
do it.
here has just commissioned right here with the glasses, Mr. Teitelbaum.
Okay.
He's a selectman. He's just commissioned a beach and tourism commission that was just appointed a couple weeks ago. This is Mr. Slavin, who's a member of the Board of Selectmen. Mrs. Begley on the end here, who is a member of the Board of Selectmen. Mrs. Winslow, who is the clerk of the board. And Mr. Bowen there, and I'm sure that if we're into any legal matters with leases and things like that, that I think you want to get into, Mr. Bowen is our town council. So I think now you've met all the key players. I don't think there's anybody else that may be involved, but those are the folks who can help you.
Well, I certainly would.
So, Mr. Teitelbaum, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm just curious, where in onset were you looking to commence your operations, and how big of, well, I guess more properly, how many kayaks were you looking to make available down there, or boards, or what have you? If you could describe how many of each category you were.
Well, I think
you were
initially
thinking
we would probably start out with at least a dozen kayaks, maybe 3 or 4 double kayaks, and maybe half a dozen stand-up paddleboards. And I have enough. I have enough boats presently that I could handle just about anything, really. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm happy to work with any of the, all the town officials and learn, about your regulations establishing a new business. And I also would like to become an active participant in your local events, of course.
That gentleman sitting right there will hold your hand and walk you through the entire process. I guarantee
That
it.
would be great. Thank you. I'll certainly be happy to meet him.
Mr. Slavin, questions, comments?
No, just a comment. Onset Harbor it gets a little testy because of the amount of boat traffic, and we have less and less space 'cause people keep putting, there's piers, et cetera, and there's an issue there. You just have to work around it. I think the only real problem I see is if you're going to use the old Onset Beach House, I believe that's
Yes.
bathhouse, in order to lease that, I think you have to talk to Mr. Pena and also actually to Mr. Sullivan,
Right.
because I think there's a process to go through. They just can't
Yeah. Well,
open
was-
that up to you. You probably have
that's
to go
what
for an
we-
RFP.
That's what we had heard about, and I think that would be, what we would try to approach. As far as the area, I mean, I know the area quite well. I've paddled it, many times. I participated in the annual poker run that they have here.
Right.
So,
You want to talk a little bit about the area around the Narrows?
Well, we have 2 dams, but if you forge over both dams, between the 2 dams going upriver, we have 53 and 9, so that's 62 miles of kayakable waterways, which is an untapped resource.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware of these. That's why I'm trying to get everybody to just kind of give you some.
Is that,
quick information about
is that
where.
around to the left and up through the river, or?
You know where the Toby Hospital is?
I don't.
It's actually over by
Main Street.
backside
Wareham.
of Main Street, Merchants Way. You go back up, you run into the dam a little way up there.
Okay.
You forge over the dam,
Mhm.
and the other side you go up past Horseshoe Pond, and then there's the actual Tremont Dam, and you go over that Tremont Dam, and there's about 53 miles of navigable waterway from there.
Well, that's,
It's calmer water than trying to deal with a bay. So I mean,
Sure,
if you look,
exactly.
I think you need to look at all these, and
okay,
that gentleman sitting right behind you will take you on a guided tour. I guarantee that as well.
okay, that would be great.
He's right there. Yeah, that's the guy.
And we
Make
have-
sure you get his number before you leave.
I will. And could I have his name again, please?
I'm sorry.
Could I have his name again, please?
Oh, I don't want to tell you that. I
Oh.
can't. He'd kill me if I gave it out twice. He's going to give you a business card right now. He's reaching for it.
Okay, and I'll give him mine.
Mrs. Begley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I have kind of a follow-up question to Selectman Titlebaum. Where in Onset were you planning on?
We were hoping to set up a rental condition at the beach area near the bathhouse. What we thought might be, is the bathhouse closed permanently at this point?
Yeah, see, those kind of answers you need to get, and then you would add Mr. Gifford as well, who's the Department of Engineering and Maintenance.
Well, we thought that.
So you have, those guys are day-to-day people.
Yeah.
You really need to be speaking to them about those, to get those answers.
Okay. Well, what we were thinking was if it was available, we would, keep the boats inside the bathhouse, pull them out onto the sand, each day, and hopefully use the old food concession as a registration location. Which, that concession area is like close to the parking lot.
Yes, I understand. I think that the building needs extraordinary amount of work, though.
Okay.
And this question is for Attorney Bowen. Does the 1916 decree play into any of this? Or it could?
What physical changes would be occurring as a result of the operation? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll use the microphone. What physical changes would there be, if any, that would play into this operation?
Physical changes to the bathhouse?
Yeah, to the general area of Onset. Are you going to be building, dredging,
No.
putting in docks?
No, not really. I mean, my operation's pretty simple. You just drag the boats out onto the sand and launch the people right at the beach area. At the end of the day, they come in, you just put them back in some sort of a storage. Worst case scenario, we could find storage at an alternate location. And just, I have trailers. I have 2 huge trailers that, that I can, carry my kayaks and stand-up paddleboards. Just bring them to a particular location each day and just put them on the sand and rent them from there.
Well, Mr. Chairman, with your permission to answer your question, I think there's
Yeah,
probably no
briefly,
impact.
because we're not here to discuss, this is operations
just
in
asking-
day-to-day, so.
I'm just asking the questions that kind of I was elected to do so, because I know there's a whole bunch of people
But I
in
don't have
Onset
an
that are
agenda item
thinking
here
those.
to discuss his
Sure.
business operation.
And I guess my other questions can wait, because this is just kind of the initial discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would like to also mention that I do have some representation of friends and guides and instructors here today, associates. I do have an instructor, trainer, educator that works for me. That's probably one of the highest levels with the American Canoe Association. And at his level, he can teach instructors like myself, who is certified with the American Canoe Association, to become an instructor. The thing is that
We also have some local residents here that are experts in this field.
well, that would be the thing.
You
We
know?
hope to hire a lot of the local residents.
Well, I don't know if he wants to work. I don't know if you
Well,
met
well,
Mr.
he,
Wheeler.
she, they,
I don't think he's looking for a job, but he's retired, but he's done a lot of kayaking for
Would that
some
be
very
Mr.
worthy
Wheeler?
cause. Dick Wheeler,
Oh, okay.
Richard.
Richard
Yeah.
Wheeler, yeah.
So
I read about him. Quite
he
a,
lives right down there off the
he's,
beach.
Quite an individual.
He sure is.
Yeah, I would love to meet him. So, I mean, you probably read in my packet that I do have a lot of other business relationships with, CBiz Insurance, and my company has full liability coverage, which I think is important. I have. Did you want me to introduce?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Anybody you brought with you, that's fine.
Okay. Well, first of all, I have, he's an ACA certified instructor, Patrick Marshall, if you just please stand up.
Patrick,
Okay.
we'll give you a little clap for that. It's very
And,
good. Welcome.
As I said, Armand McCune Santos, he was going to be here, but he couldn't make it today, and he is the instructor, trainer, educator. In fact, Armand just recertified, because we have to recertify every 4 years.
Okay.
So he recertified Patrick and myself just recently, in October, actually. And I also have with me some of my associates. I have Deborah Jenkins, who's working her way towards her certification.
Thank you. Nice to meet
I
you.
have Donald LaFerrier, who is the manager of my Raynham location, also an Eagle Scout, works with the Boy Scouts, which we do a lot of trips with, and we did a certification this year at Camp Squanto in Plymouth. Maura Rosenthal.
I recognize the red jacket.
You know him?
No, I recognize the red jacket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maura Rosenthal, she's a professor at Bridgewater University. She's my stand-up paddleboard instructor, and she's not here today. And then finally, I have James Wadsworth. He's also one of our instructors. He's paddled the Allagash, 50 miles up the Allagash many trips. He's lived in Brazil and paddled a lot of the waterways in Brazil, all up and down Maine and New Hampshire. So most of my people, have a lot of experience on the water. And, I just need to reinforce that it's all about safety and instruction, but most of all, it's about having fun. And if you know the rules, if you know the safety regulations, you can go out there and really have a good time.
Outstanding.
So that's.
Anybody else comments, or Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, just procedurally, in terms of the next step, we do need to make sure that we're in compliance with procurement laws when it comes to.
His next step is to get with Sal and Derek and sit down and have a meeting.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we follow all the.
We don't have. He needs to go with the town administrator and work with Cedar and town administrator, not the board of selectmen.
I understand that, but there's
we
a.
don't need to make sure of anything.
Well, we did swear that we were going to uphold the laws of the.
We don't. He needs to go through the proper channels.
He does, but in the proposal that was submitted to us, it is asking for.
We're not here to discuss any proposals.
Okay, I'm just putting out there that it's my expectation that the town administrator and our legal counsel and our CETA director are going to ensure that all the proper public procurement laws are followed to a T.
I'm sure that they will.
Right.
Thank you.
And, and that's what we are willing to do as well. We know that there are procedures. We just have to learn what your rules, regulations, and procedures are. And we don't want to step on anybody's toes. We just want to, be able to set up shop, have fun, bring some revenue to the town. I mean, try to add to the, to the tourism that you already have here. It's just, it's all about that. We'll advertise. We'll try to make the business grow. The better we do, hopefully the better the town will do as well. So.
And that's why these gentlemen will and our town employees that are responsible will walk you through all the proper steps that you need to take care of.
All I need is a direction, and I'll go for it. I'll
Start right there with
just
that.
Point me in the right direction.
Mr. Sullivan, right there.
Mr. Sullivan, okay.
Mr. Chair, I think, there was a source of confusion for me as well. This is by no means a reflection on this project, because it's a great project. But this says that it requests the approval of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Wareham to proceed with exploratory plans detailing all aspects of creating a new business entity as a sole bidder for contract. That's where my confusion came in as well, because
That's not on the agenda.
But it's on there.
It is not on the agenda.
I'm saying that it's on the proposal. That's where the source of confusion was for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually was calling the gentleman not to come in, and then I figured I couldn't get a hold of him, so that we would just preface that in the beginning of the conversation, that he was here basically to educate us on who he is. There is no proposal in front of this board. Well, it's not on the agenda, so unless it's put somewhere else, there is no action to be taken by this board. So, anybody else? Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to
I
you.
appreciate it.
These folks will guide you and tell you exactly what you need to do.
Do they have business cards?
I think Sal was pulling one out. He's got his waiting for you in the back there. And Mr. Sullivan is easy to find. He's in that big building next door. That big building next door on the 3rd floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy your holidays. Mr. Chair, item B, discussion regarding increased fees for municipal lien certificates. This was another issue that came up last week. There was some confusion over which area of the law might be applicable. Attorney Bowen had pointed out that we did not last week have the ability to take action. So Mr. Teitelbaum and Mr. Slavin had called around because other towns had been able to do this, so they were hoping to figure out how, and it seems that they have provided us with how others have dealt with the issue of municipal lien certificates. So with your permission, I will turn it over to one of them to explain.
Gentlemen?
Okay, on this particular piece here, it's Chapter 40, Section 22F. That has to be basically accepted by the town, which it was. Mr. Bowen checked to make sure with our town clerk that that had been done, which it has been. So then you go over to Mass General Laws, Chapter 60, Section 23, and almost all the way to the end of it, there is a portion there that talks about the certificate issued under this section shall not affect the obligation of any person liable for the payment of any tax, assessed rate, or charge by, reason being the assessed owner of such parcel of real estate at that time such lien shall become effective. The last sentence basically answers the question. The Register of Deeds as such as or as assistant recorder of the land court shall receive, record, or register such certificate on the payment of a fee of $50. And that's what, when that was passed, that's what that happened. So it allows it to be done.
Okay, and you through.
Just for record also, Rochester passed it through town meeting. I believe we don't have to do it that way. I believe the town administrator can go ahead and do it because we have already taken the first step by accepting Chapter 40.
And Mr. Chair, through you, did you present this to town council?
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, in reviewing Chapter 40, Section 22F, it provides that any municipal board or officer empowered to issue a blah, blah, blah certificate may fix reasonable fees for all such licenses. If it's an official appointed by an elected board, that elected board has to approve. In this case, since it's the treasurer collector's fee that's being set, and the treasurer collector is not appointed by an elected board, the treasurer collector may on his own set this fee without action by this board.
So we don't have to do anything.
Correct.
Good. Okay, so I guess we're ready to move on to item C.
Makes life easy.
CDBG mini entitlement grant.
Mr. Sal?
Is this the letter in our packet that's asking for an extension? Okay.
Good, how are you? See? Businesses are walking right in just asking to be helped now. Isn't that one?
So that's the climate that we're setting here.
Yeah, that works. Okay. You've been asking about this extension, right? You want to just talk to us about what we're doing?
Yeah, our FY11 Community Development Block Grant is due to expire on at the end of December. And we have a couple of projects that are still ongoing.
Okay.
So this is a fairly routine extension request. The Department of Housing and Community Development usually allows each community to have 2 extensions. This would be the first extension that we'd be requesting on this grant. And I think in my letter I stated that it's we have a housing project that's probably just going to take us past the end of December that we're finishing up, and we have some funds that are in the a contract with the for a literacy program that have not been expended. So they asked for a request to extend their contract.
Sure.
So I've not responded to them yet until I hear from.
And all I have to do is sign that.
All I have to do is sign it.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Titlebaum?
No questions. Thank you for bringing this to our attention so we get to spend the money.
You're welcome.
Sal, just one quick question.
Mhm.
We were able to use all the funds for this particular grant?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank
Those are the
you.
last two projects, and
So
then the
that's
grant
it
will be
then?
fully expended.
Okay. And that this one here stayed at $1 million. The next one after 2012 was 900,000, I think.
And it's $900,000, yeah, 2012. That's the next one. This is the FY11 grant that
That's
we
what I
still have
thought.
open.
Thank you.
Ms. Begley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarification for the listening audience, we're not granting the extension. This is a request to Mr. Newton.
Right, to David
to
Newton,
extend,
yes.
To extend the,
It's a request on the from CEDA on behalf of well, actually it's a request from the town by CEDA to David Newton from the Department of Housing and Community Development to extend the grant period.
right. We're
for
not
additional
granting the
3 months.
extension.
That's correct.
This is just we're approving the letter be sent.
Yeah, actually, it requires the signature of the chair of the Board of Selectmen.
I understand, and I see that the extension, it's kind of a short period of time, really. It's March of 2013.
Yeah, it's 3 months. Usually, the extensions, each extension is a 3-month period. You can't. Typically, they will allow you up to 2 without any sort of hardship.
Okay.
So the grants can generally run from 12 to 18 months.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Begley? Mrs. Winslow?
I don't have any questions. We don't need to take any action on this, so.
Okay. Is the next one yes, too?
The next one's mine, too.
This is the SERPED South Coast Rail Technical Assistant. This is something we discussed, Mr. Chair, a couple weeks ago or last week. I don't recall. We'd been given a grant, and this would be the contract. Would you like me to read the contract into the record?
Sure, go ahead.
The Town of Wareham South Coast Rail Technical Assistance. This cooperative agreement made as of this, I guess it'd be the 4th day of December 2012, by and between the Town of Wareham and the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District, SERPED. Witness 2, whereas Wareham has requested SERPED assistance with the development of a streetscape concept plan and preliminary cost for Merchants Way in Wareham's village area. Whereas SERPED has agreed to allocate a portion of its South Coast Rail Technical Assistance Grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for this purpose. And whereas the Town of Wareham has pledged to act in good faith to adopt and to implement the product that is deemed by both parties to be complete. Now therefore the parties hereto do mutually covenant and agree as follows. 1. The scope of services. The services to be performed by SERPED in the Town of Wareham under this cooperative agreement are detailed in Attachment A. 2. Time of performance. The services to be performed under the cooperative agreement shall commence on December 1st, 2012, and all services required hereunder shall be performed on or before June 15th, 2013. 3. Payment. The total cost of the services to be performed by SERPED shall not exceed $15,000. These funds will come from SERPED's South Coast Rail Technical Assistance account and shall be performed at no cost to the Town of Wareham. And then on the back, in an attachment dated October 10th, 2012, is the scope of work.
Okay, anything on the question? Well, I don't need a motion. I just have to sign the document. Does the board have any questions?
Just one quick piece. For the chairman, we have to make sure that you're registered with SERPED as the SERPED commissioner. Okay, because there was a question. That's why one of the grants had to go a different way. Thank you.
That was easy to answer. Love softball questions. Anything else you want to talk about while you're here?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Go chase that guy now and
All right.
get us another business.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 items left on the agenda. One of them, can I just take the discussion of town meeting guidelines out of order? I when we talked about this last week, I think that the spirit of the conversation was this would be a joint discussion between the board, the town administrator, town council, and the town moderator. So I'm wondering if we could schedule that to a future date so we can invite her.
That doesn't seem to be what I was, Mr. Titlebaum?
Well, I think originally, this all emanated from a discussion Selectman Begley and I had last week when we were in to sign some documents at Town Hall before we met last week. Basically, I think we each expressed some thoughts that perhaps we could streamline and improve the board's handling and the receipt, the consideration, and the votes on the warrant articles. Town moderator controls town meeting, but we're tasked with getting the warrant heard, prepared, and executed, and served. So with that responsibility, of course, come a number of different steps. And what we had contemplated, and certainly correct me if I misspeak here, was possibly working with the town moderator and working with council as well as administration to try to streamline the process to give us a very clear road. This will assist us in scheduling matters. It will assist us in putting things on the agenda. It will assist, hopefully, town department heads to possibly come to a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom, so they don't have to devote 2 nights to this activity. There's a number of things that we sort of bandied about in a very loose fashion. And so that's sort of the gist of the discussion here. And now I think I'd like to hear Mrs. Begley and just confirm that I've sort of stated it correctly here.
Mrs. Begley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, long story short,
I like those.
is we propose to write a selectmen's policy. And we'll certainly get input from council and town moderator, because there seems to be, there's several articles that are submitted by the Board of Selectmen, and in this past town meeting, we had some submitted that I pretty much didn't see prior to closing of the warrant and or voting on it. So it's writing a policy is the long story short.
I agree. There were some items that we had time to get people in on, and the Finance Committee didn't. There was stuff that we didn't see that the Finance Committee did see, so I know that Alan had talked to me a while back about, and others, about, certainly we'll do that for April, is have a joint meeting where we entertain all that. But it would be nice to have a policy and procedure. And so what is are you going to work together on this and bring something back after getting information?
Yeah, that was the gist of our discussion, was to reach out to the town administrator, council, and the moderator, and try to come up with almost a flow chart, I guess, if you will, for consideration by the board to see whether it would want to adopt this as a policy. And of course, we'd have to talk with the FinCom as well and do all of these things. It's not a light undertaking, and in fact, we may find as we go through things that we can come up with some immediate recommendations that will benefit everybody for Springtown meeting, but there are some other things that actually would have to be handled by town meeting itself to accomplish changes.
Perfect.
So, with that in mind, I guess my question is, what's the board's feeling about this?
Well, I'm not in favor of banging out any policies here. I've been a great fan of people. Yeah, I don't care if you work together on this or go out and do it, bring it back when it's ready.
Okay.
Then we can discuss it.
We'll do the legwork.
It's a waste of time, really, to have 5 people trying to do that.
So when it's done, it'll land back on the agenda.
Do you have an issue with that? Banging
No,
it out, bringing it
no, I think that's the easiest way to do it. It also reminds me that we do need to put our policies on the agenda. We were going to do
They
that.
are coming.
Okay, good. All right, so
Begin receiving those, because I did have an issue, and you should begin receiving those by number this week.
Okay.
Can't just do it. You have to have the numbers.
So item E, which is outside of liaison reports, the final item on the agenda.
So on that, just 1 second. So on this, I gotta make a note here. On this town meeting guidelines, we're gonna leave that in the capable hands of Mr. Titlebaum and Mrs. Begley, correct? Correct?
Yes.
Mrs. Begley? Then we're gonna leave that in the capable hands of you and Mr. Titlebaum? Yes. All right. I was waiting for a yes. Okay.
Okay.
Read this too.
Do you want me to read that? I thought it just
Under
came in as a.
announcements.
Okay. The Wareham Police Association fundraiser. Please be advised the Wareham Police Association is beginning its winter fundraiser. It started on Sunday, December 2nd, 2012. It will run for the month of December only. The hours of calling will be from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. These calls help to fund the following: 2012 to 2013 Wareham Police Association scholarships, Wareham Youth Team sponsorship for JBA basketball, Wareham Little League, youth hockey, and Tiger football. A complete set of flags and names for the Wareham Police Association monument. Stuff a Cruiser event. Shared sponsorship with Shop with a Cop Christmas program. The names of all callers for the fundraiser are posted in the communications center, as well as Mike Young, who runs the campaign. If there are any complaints or questions, they may be directed to Glenn Gifford, Peter Murphy, or Walter Carrera, and the issue will be taken care of. I think what this is to alert the public that they will be making these phone calls. A lot of times we get these calls and we think they're coming from a third-party vendor. So if you do get these calls, they are coming from the Wareham Police Association, and if there's an issue, it needs to be directed to the three individuals that I mentioned. Okay. Now, we have the last item on the agenda outside of liaison reports is the review and discussion of town administrator applications and or possible vote. So, Mr. Chair, have you received any applications to your posting? One application? Was the application submitted in confidence or not?
I don't know. Was it in your packet?
No.
Just saw something. Were they supposed to be addressed to me?
That's what the posting said, sir.
Oh, I just saw it.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's not confidential. And I received one.
Okay. So if it's not confidential, then we can discuss the application.
Do whatever you'd like. Let me find it again. Make sure there was only one.
For the record, the Board of Selectmen received, within a timely manner, according to the posting, an application from Derek D. Sullivan, MPA. Mr. Sullivan has included his resume, which consists of work as the interim town administrator for the town of Wareham, financial analyst researcher for the town of Wareham, an internship for the town of Wareham, and prior to that, he did some work at his Suffolk University, where he earned his master's in public administration. And prior to that, he worked in the banking industry as a branch manager, for a mortgage company as a sales manager. As I said, he holds an MPA from Suffolk with a GPA 3.95. What? It's all public information. And we could photocopy this and hand it out, but I'm trying to save you the trouble of running downstairs. He holds a bachelor's degree with a double major in communications and political science from the University of Rhode Island, where he had a GPA of 3.70. Not bad. Clearly you paid closer attention in graduate school, though, huh? Yeah. Finally, he is a notary public for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So am I. So, Mr. Chairman, being that we have only one application to consider from our latest posting, I would ask the pleasure of the board in how they wish to. It would be my personal position that we should vote on this matter this evening. Well, you can, I'm just asking what everybody wants to do.
I guess my question is this: does this board want to continue and interview Mr. Sullivan for the position, or I don't know.
I would say that in essence we've been interviewing him almost on a weekly basis for the last 3 months. I think we know he's interested in the position. He's the only one, in fact, who applied for the position. So I think we can probably proceed to discuss his candidacy for the position and go ahead and vote.
It's not mine.
Well, my question is this, and this is certainly, I think that Mr. Sullivan has been doing a fantastic job, and I think he's been doing a great job right along in both positions that he's held for this town. But I think that it's disingenuous to say that we had one application, because the only posting was at the town hall, at the clerk's office, and at the bulletin board. Certainly in violation of the Board of Selectmen's policy for posting vacancies. But whatever the board wishes to do.
At this point, we posted as we're required to post, and I think at this point here, we should basically go ahead and take a vote. We've talked about this. We've already kind of more or less went ahead and we're looking forward to doing this already. So I'd like to go ahead and make a decision one way or the other here. I don't see any reason to wait any longer.
Well, Mr. Chairman, would it be inappropriate to go around and allow the board to ask Mr. Sullivan any questions that they might have for him prior to?
Here's the thing. Here's where I sit on this. We took a vote a couple of weeks ago. We took a vote a couple of weeks ago to entertain hiring Mr. Sullivan. I don't have an issue with that, but quite frankly, the board could today, well, I mean, you couldn't really vote to hire him anyway today, because you could vote to enter discussions with him today about accepting the position. And then we would have to discuss things like salary, discuss things like a contract, put all that together. That all has to be done. I have no issue fielding questions to Mr. Sullivan as part of that process. And then Rich, with some advice on the salary and things like that. Is that something? How is that process developed? Is that an executive meeting issue because it could be considered negotiations? Is it something that we do here in an open session? How does that piece work? Because we haven't talked about that.
Mr. Chairman, as to the actual negotiations, that would fall under the exception for negotiations with non-union personnel. So that is something that you could do in executive session if you wanted to. It's something where you could discuss parameters amongst yourselves and direct me or some other person that you deemed appropriate to enter into negotiations with Mr. Sullivan's attorney, after which time I could report back to you on the result of those negotiations, come back with a draft contract that reflects your parameters and the results of the negotiations. You could review that in executive session, and then if you felt that the results were appropriate, you could then go into open session and take a formal vote as to both the appointment and the terms of the contract,
Okay.
so that the public was fully informed.
So, as I understand it, we could, I think I would entertain a motion that says that the board would enter into official negotiations amongst itself and with Mr. Sullivan with the intent to hire him as the town administrator. Does that sound appropriate?
Mr. Chair, I will move that it is the intention of the board to hire Mr. Derek Sullivan for the position of town administrator upon completion of successful contract negotiations.
Second.
That motion made and seconded on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 5-0-0.
Now, Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
If I could just, let me finish. I would, next Tuesday at 6, Mr. Emerson will be here. We've already confirmed that. So I would think that we could sit and hammer that out at the same time.
Well,
He has a short meeting.
yeah, no, my question was going to
Well,
be...
I'm just trying to develop a time frame here.
Right,
so
but I think my question might help you.
Oh. Well, we'll see.
If Attorney Bowen says the first step is for the 5 of us to meet and discuss parameters to give to him to negotiate with Mr. Sullivan's attorney, is that something we can do this evening, Attorney Bowen?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see, the agenda item says review and discussion of town administrator applications and/or possible vote. I'd say if you wanted to do it in open session, the answer is yes, that you could. If you wanted to do it in executive session because it's not on the agenda as an executive session, that would be an issue.
Well, it really doesn't help my concern because, one,
I'm lost.
there's a contract issue that has to be done. We don't have that in front of us unless you do, that you can share with all of us. So that, I mean, we have to get the information together so we can sit down and have a discussion about it.
Mr.
We
Chair,
have to put together a contract that we can negotiate with this man.
Well, I think that the contract gets put together by our attorney. The board has to set the parameters, the salary, vacation, and
that?
length of contract. But I mean, the boilerplate pieces are already there. They're part of any standard contract. We don't really have the ability to change those because
It's up to the board.
Mr. Chair,
I'm not prepared to do
just-
that. I have no idea. I hadn't even thought about it.
just for
be honest with you.
clarification, if I might, Attorney Bowen, you mentioned that the current agenda item. I wasn't really prepared to come and discuss like contract and that kind of thing this evening, and I think it would behoove this board to do this in executive session, and then certainly we're gonna have the rest of it in public session, no question. And for clarification, would it be Attorney Emerson that would be working on this contract?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it can be whoever you want to have work on it. And the question put to me on whether you could just have that discussion tonight, the answer was yes.
Yes, I understand.
But whether you can do something and whether you should do something are two different things.
I understand. Thanks. It was just for clarification. So I guess I think I just assumed that it would be Attorney Emerson.
Well, if Mr. Bowen does it, it's covered under his agreement. If Mr. Emerson does it, it's a separate fee, correct? I think
we
Rich has done enough of these that I'm not looking to hire an outside attorney unless he has an agreement with Mr. Emerson.
Well, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to follow whatever direction the board wants to do it. I'm happy to do it. In my view, it's very simple. I think as Selectman Winslow said, a lot of it is boilerplate. It's going to come down to two things: how much money and how long is the contract. And really, I think if we had probably the last two town administrators' contracts right here tonight, we could probably hammer something out in about 30 minutes.
I
But
didn't expect this. I didn't
No,
expect
no,
this, or
but
I
we're not
would've-
doing
I
that.
would have had
I
that
understand.
done. Nobody brought it up.
Well, I would schedule it for next Tuesday. Unfortunately, I won't be here for that executive session, but
Right, it's the 11th. You said you weren't here on the 18th.
yeah, but I'm not going to make
You know
6
what we can
o'clock.
do? Next Tuesday.
But I want to get it rolling. So
Well, will you be here at all?
later, yes.
Well, what we'll do next Tuesday is we'll do
Have a
we'll do
separate
that piece
executive.
after.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense, Mr. Chairman. This is,
At the end of the meeting.
Mm.
negotiating things like this are sausages that are best not created in public.
The other
it's
issue
difficult
is,
because
you
you
don't
got
spring it on somebody at the last
Yeah.
minute and say, okay, now we're going to do this without some kind of
thought process. Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So
We have to
we'll do it
think. He has
next-
to think.
We'll be prepared for next Tuesday, and when we finish our regular meeting, we'll just go into executive and bang it out there. It shouldn't take long. But at least then we're all prepared to do it.
Fine.
Okay.
Liaison reports.
Mr. Titlebaum,
Nothing this evening.
Mr. Slavin.
The meals tax option, 0.75%, passed the House last week. It's moved over to the Senate, and my letter that I got yesterday from Mary in Senator Pacheco's office was that they will do their best to get it done this week.
Mrs. Winslow.
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Chair.
Did we all enjoy our nice joint meeting last Wednesday? Was that fun? Everybody had fun?
Yeah, very much so.
It was very productive. Lots of people got stickers.
Stickers?
Hmm.
Oh, is that good? Oh, good. The hope is that we'll continue to do that with the FinCom. Mr. Sullivan will suggest the next meeting to me, probably in the next couple of weeks, so that we can make sure we keep all our year-end stuff in order. In the next round, we'll be contacting Mr. Sweat as well, and we'll have a joint meeting with them, especially now that once we get past December, the budget cycle. So those are all good things. It's just good that this board needs to do those types of things with our other friends. Next week, I need to just kind of get a sense of next week. This is a very it can be very easy and it can be a very difficult process. But next week we have all of our liquor licenses on the 11th will be coming up. So last year what we did was we had the packet here. We went through them and voted them, signed the packets down this way, and then put them in the box down by Mrs. Winslow there. And that way, they went back in the box the same way they came into us, because the office, it's a lot of paper here. So we want to do that very carefully next week. I also spoke with the chief, and we're going to try to see, Mrs. Winslow won't be here on the 18th, so I'm going to try to see if we can get all of the police retirement plaques have been completed. They've been completed for a little while now. So I thought it would be good that we do that, if we can do it next week, if I can get the officers in with the chief.
No. I thought we said January.
No, with the Christmas issue, the Christmas awards and the retirement plaques.
Yeah, we can't. Oh, I thought you meant January 11th. We won't. We didn't vote on the awards tonight.
Well, we could do that now. I didn't know you needed a vote.
We have to have. Yeah, just to explain to the board, the Spirit of Christmas Awards. This will be its 4th or 5th year. They were designed to recognize people within the community who contribute to the community. They are, in fact, the Chairman's Awards. And the only vote is to approve the chairman's list. However, it's pomp and circumstance, so to speak, because you're gonna approve the list. However, it goes on the agenda simply as the approval of the chairman's list. I believe that was the phrase we used last year, because the recipients of the awards are a surprise until we issue the awards. And Attorney Bowen, we talked about this last year when we went through this with Mr. former Chairman Cruz, how to get this accomplished. So I suppose if we were going to do this for next week, we would have to notify the recipients, first of all, and secondly...
Well, they're Christmas awards.
They're Christmas awards, yes. Well, they're called the Spirit of Christmas Awards.
Right, so you give them out in the Christmas season, right?
Well, yeah, but I think the Christmas season continues, in my house.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So,
That's
but
when the wreath comes down.
Typically, these awards have been handed out during the town's annual Christmas celebration at the end of the parade. However, as we all learned last week, the parade is not coming up to Town Hall, and these awards were not taken into consideration when planning the parade.
Are you sure we can't do this at Tremont Nail at the end of the parade like we do at Town Hall?
Well, no, they're not sure of the timing. So this presents a unique opportunity for us to do this during a televised meeting in a warm room. So nobody's freezing. Nobody's worried about the timing of different events. We've always piggybacked on that event. However, these are our awards. And,
So what is the bottom line is?
The bottom line is, I suppose, and Attorney Bowen can correct me if I'm wrong, that you could put as one of the first agenda items to approve. I don't even understand why we need a vote if they're the chairman's awards.
Like I'm a citizen, I could almost do it under citizens' participation or under announcements. I'm announcing the recipients of the
Right.
awards.
Right.
That's the big.
But I mean, I guess my point is
I'm not
that
worried either.
whether the board approves the awards or not, the chairman is going to hand them out. I mean, it would be silly of us to vote against them. Nobody
hope
ever
not.
has.
That would be interesting. It might be an interesting day.
You'll get the list by the end of the week. So if we don't need that, then I suppose next week would work just fine. I don't have an issue with that. Just means I got to type extra fast.
Good for next week? Well, it'd be nice to do them when all five of us are here and Mrs. Winslow won't be here
Right.
on the 18th.
Mr.
So I will try to get the, I'll get with Rick tomorrow, or maybe I'll call him on the way home tonight and see if he can't get those guys in.
How big?
Because that'd be nice to do them all at the same time.
So
The retirement awards and the Christmas things all at the same time.
just to understand, so we would do the retirement awards, the Christmas awards, and then the liquor license renewals, and that's all that's going to be on the agenda.
No, I didn't say that. What I
Oh.
said was next week, I'm just giving you fair warning that next
Yeah.
week is the
Right.
annual liquor license renewal meeting.
But then keep in mind that we also plan to meet after our meeting.
Yeah, to deal with the,
Right.
that's what, I don't know if you, were you back?
I may not,
For
I'm
next
not going
week.
to get here till closer to 7 next week, so.
If we have time to do it before the meeting, we'll do it before. I don't know what Joe and her schedule is. And if not, we'll just do it after. When we're done, we'll go into executive and bang that out. All the
Okay.
previous contracts will be emailed
Okay.
or sent to the board like tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just have a couple questions. They're not liaison, but, and this is to Attorney Bowen, just quickly. Attorney Bowen, there might be 2 liquor licenses that will come before this board, that we discussed last week. Would that be the appropriate time to bring up the issues that we identified last week?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, in speaking with the town administrator and staff, it's my understanding that those 2 establishments have not and will not be filing license renewals. So that would mean that as of midnight on December 31st, those licenses are gone.
Okay, so end of problem for that.
Did you get a call today? Is this the same 2 licenses I spoke to you about? Did you get a call today? I'll check my voicemails, but
Okay, and then my
he was
other.
trying to get the licenses back from, he doesn't have.
Yes, I
access to the
know.
property
We discussed this last week, Mr. Chair, and sorry, it was in your absence. We certainly didn't take action on it. We discussed it. The other question I have is, since it's not back from the Attorney General, is this Board of Selectmen do the dangerous dog hearings? Because we had a request from the police department some weeks ago, and given that it's not back from the Attorney General, I don't think that we are qualified to do so.
Actually, if I can speak to this, Mr. Chairman, because I'm pretty familiar with the whole process here. What town meeting passed was... Woof. What town meeting...
For the answer.
That's fine.
Okay.
What town meeting passed was a request, or an instruction rather, to file special legislation with the legislature to go ahead and take the hearing authority, if you will, back from the police department and vest it in this board. So until the legislature acts, the police department currently has them. Now, there is an interesting wrinkle to this. Under the special act in 1994 that conveyed this authority to the police department, he's allowed to designate people to hear these things. So theoretically, he could ask. I don't think he can tell us that we have to do it, but he could ask this board to do it. So, short, long answer short, we could sort of kind of do it through an attenuated process while we wait for the real process to come back. So,
Who's done these things in the past?
Mr. Chair, they've for the most part been largely ignored for many,
Well,
many years.
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Sullivan, could somehow this be communicated to the police department that because the animal control officer / police department reached out to the Board of Selectmen in an email some weeks ago about some dangerous dogs. If it's a huge issue and the safety of citizens of the town of Wareham is at risk, then maybe Attorney Bowen and Mr. Sullivan can kind of somehow address it with the appropriate people, because I would hate to have this just fall through the cracks. If we can't act on it, or...
Mr. Solomon, would you take care of this and get back to us on this tomorrow?
Yes.
Do you recall the email, Derek?
I do recall.
Okay, thanks.
And Mr. Chairman, can I just make one request on that issue? I do think that in both these cases, there should be consultation with an attorney that specializes in this area. I'm not going to get into the reasons why tonight, but I have some serious concerns, and the town needs to be sure that it's in a good place.
They're going to take care of it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you all soon.